Yep.
So you're live then?
Yep. It's working. We actually have an end stream button there, so that looks...
Yay!
Who's that out there?
Keith. Okay. There you go. Now you're really all set up.
But everybody probably figures that we aren't going to have a show.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and just do it. Just start talking and pretend there's people there.
All right. I have something else now. I have the technical guy still there.
He's just checking.
Ooh, almost.
There you go.
All right, and there's two people in already, Brittany and Inga. As you may have suspected, we had technical issues. Something happened that never happened before. I hit begin like I always do, and it did the countdown 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then the guy's still... So we had to ask for technical help. And I don't know, can you guys see? Can you guys see his print there?
No.
No? They can't see it?
Probably not.
All right, so I think we got it fixed. And I'll tell you something, there is no way you can see me, and Nicole's with us, and Lorna's with us. Lorna's a real person. There is, if it was just me here running this operation, he's back. Rate your conversation. You gotta, you didn't rate it. All right. Welcome, everybody. I'm sorry for the delay, but that's the way it is. I can tell you one thing, though. If it was just me here doing this, it wouldn't be happening, because Jill just went through about a 25-step process where the guy would give you this many things to do, like 5 things to do. And as soon as you start doing them, you can't see the next step that he gave you. So you have to memorize all this stuff. Forget it. It wouldn't be happening. I'm telling you right now, if it was just me. So way to go, Jill. Keith's with us. Right on. So we missed out on a little bit of time here. Excuse me. Can you hear me all right? My sound okay? All right. Take a photo of the instructions. Yeah, right. Give me a Polaroid camera and then maybe take a photo of the instructions. That was 20 minutes ago, by the way. Not happening unless Jill's got it on some other device someplace. I don't know how. We don't even know where this guy was. I don't know what state he's in. I don't know. All right. You can hear me fine? All right. Good. Well, I'm happy to be here. It was a great weekend. And today was a great day. I started a project Saturday afternoon. And can you close this door then if you're going to sit there? If he's going to sit there, I just need the door closed. Okay. All right. Well, he started a project there on on Saturday afternoon and worked on it a little bit on Sunday. And what it is I'm building a hanging room. All right. So I thought we could talk about that today because it brings up all kinds of other peripheral issues that, you don't think about until it comes time to do something with the products that you make. So a hanging room is where we would hang hams, bacons, guanciales, lomas, copas, all kinds of these Italian sounding products that you make out of mangalitsa pigs. I guess you can make them out of other kinds of pigs too, but mangalitsa is, a superior grade of pig for making these things. And oh, by the way, did I mention we're doing a class this coming Saturday and Sunday here at Baker's Green Acres? It's going to be our second charcuterie class of all time. And I duty bound to tell you there was still one seat open. And yeah, Nicole, I am looking at you. I'm looking at you, Saltzman. There's one seat open still. Can you believe that? So it's a 12-person class, and we have 11 person scheduled for the class. A few of them are the people that are coming up from, about half the class is coming up from Texas. All right. They're the people we were just with at the homestead hog harvest that we did in January down in Texas. So looking forward to see those guys again. This class is a little different. There is some overlap, but we don't do the butchering on this one. So we don't do the slaughtering. That's done the day before by my staff. And then when you get here, the pigs will already be laid out on the trailer. That is the same as the homestead hog harvest. So there is a little bit of overlap. But from what I'm hearing, a little bit of overlap in that neighborhood would be probably a good thing. So that's how we decided to do it. It was a brainchild. You know what? More and more, I'm realizing that we're not just coming up with things to have classes on. We're not trying to really get the public interested in the things that we do. We're pretty much responding to the needs of the public. And so that's exciting in a way, because a lot of times you can, me especially, I can get out in front of my headlights, and because I get excited about it, but it's really a lot easier if you just respond to what people are requesting. So case in point, I had a phone call today from one of my buddies, actually, and he's been coming around here for a couple of years. He got some pigs from me, I'd say a couple of years ago, maybe even 3. And we've just stayed in contact. He's a very unique individual. And he did a hog processing, or I think he did a half a pig breakdown for a high school class up in Traverse City, which, I don't know, you wouldn't think that people would be that responsive to that up in Traverse City. But they asked him, and when he was there, they said, well, how can we do a full-blown, hog processing workshop? How can we do that? And he says, well, just down in Marion, Baker's Green Acres does that. And a few of them said, oh, wow, that guy is famous. I don't think we could ever get in there with him. And he said, oh, no, he'll do it for you if you want. So old Devin's putting together another list of names of people who would like to do another homestead hog harvest. Would we do it? Yes, we would. We would respond to the needs of the community, and that's a good thing. As this grows, as people develop a sense of urgency about being able to process animals, then you have people leaning forward, and you get a really motivated group of people that come. Sure, we'll do it. Sure, we'll do it. Why wouldn't we? That is the mission, after all. So All right, Crunchy's with us. Right on. Angus saying those Texans are going to be cold and shivering. Yeah. Oh, Nicole is saying flying to Germany Saturday. Get to see my family after 3 years. Well, we'd love to have you here, but that's a pretty good excuse. All right. We'll let it go. We'll let that go. All right. I hope you have fun. I hope you have fun. Eat some charcuterie while you're over there and wet your whistle. Because I think we're going to be doing another charcuterie too. I do believe we will. I just got the feeling in my bones. Joe is coming over tomorrow. We'll be in Texas this weekend. I'm ready for some warm air. What are you doing in Texas, Brittany? Who's taking care of the farm? All right, good. I hope you're able to come see us, at least for Tribe Day. You know, this is going to be a new, improved, fun Tribe Day. All right, cool. Vindicti's with us. Might be in Texas on April 1st. Is this some sort of joke? Some sort of joke? All right, so I started working on the hanging room today, and it's really, you know, I've got a lot of projects around here that are tugging at my pant leg, right? I've got a bathroom that's about 3/4 of the way done, but you can go in there and use the toilet. You can go in there and take a shower and stuff. But still, while you're sitting there using the toilet, you're thinking, well, when I do get back in here to finish this, you know, but it functions. And sometimes you just have to say good enough with that. But the hanging room, it's not quite functioning the way it should. And I really want to be able to show this class of people that are coming to learn charcuterie. I want to show them, okay, you need this. You need this. I mean, it's not, you don't have to have it, but it sure makes life easy if you do have it. So a hanging room. What is a hanging room? A hanging room is like a room, all right, where you hang around. No, you hang, you know, things like this. You hang that in a hanging room. This one is fine. This one has been hung, and it's here. It's stable. The temperature back here is fairly good. It's about 60 degrees and about 60% humidity. I really don't know what the humidity is back here, but usually in the house, it's like 70, 75. So it might be a little humid back here, but this has already hung for 2 years. So it's already stable. So we have a target temperature, and we have a target humidity. If it's not perfect, we're still okay. All right. Because we are working with the seasons here. We're working with the seasons. We kill in the fall and in the winter. And if need be, we're going to be killing at the end of winter, you know, March. That's kind of spring. But the thing about that is we're avoiding the flies. All right. So if we kill in March, no flies in March. April, not really. May, yeah. May, we start getting them here. But are they, you know, hot to trot breeding flies? That's questionable. Middle of May, end of May, yeah, we would be. So our room needs to be configured so that no flies can get in. Can you do that? Yeah, you can do that. Matter of fact, tomorrow, Joe coming here, and for our filming day, I'm going to be given a rendition of what the hanging room should look like and how it should be configured. The one weak spot is always the door, you know, because the door, it's got to meet the seals. And if it doesn't meet the seals, then you have a little gap. And, you know, a fly could get in there. And it only takes one fly to get into your hanging room and really wreak havoc. Now, if you process in October, let's say, I mean, we're safely out of fly season in October, end of September as well. But if you process in October and you get everything in there, you've got October, November, December, January, February, March, right? So there's 6 months right there that you have a jump on your curing process. And when this right here could hang here all summer long, it wouldn't make any difference. The flies won't even land on it because it's cured, right? Flies are always looking for something that they can lay eggs on, and that would not be suitable for them. It wouldn't, like they wouldn't lay eggs on this flashlight, you know. If I put a chunk of meat on there, they'd think that's pretty special. But that they will not. And that is, that's as important as 60 degrees, 60% humidity, probably more. Because if you're not at 60 degrees, we say actually plus or minus 20. That's my experience, like in the hanging rooms that we have had here, plus or minus 20. And we're still getting pretty decent product. This hung in a it wasn't a hanging room, actually. It was a cooler that I built like 15 years ago. And we had a cooler unit in it. It's insulated. It's let's see, it's 8x8 off the back of the shop. And it was a cement foundation, concrete foundation, and then just 2x6 walls that I insulated. And we had a cooler unit hanging there, and we were actually using it for our cooler. And we used it for about a year. And then all of a sudden I came across a good deal on a freezer and a cooler unit. It was two separate units, $800 for both of them. It was an HVAC guy around here that took it out of a Subway. He took it out of a Subway and then installed a new one and brought it home because it was just like a junk pile. And he said, that was working when we took it out. If you want it, you can have for $400 a piece. The cooler was probably 6x6 or 6x7, and the freezer is 4x5. So it's a walk-in. It's 4x5. You can put a lot of stuff in there, and I've got shelves built, so it's pretty good. And so I nailed it. I mean, we've had to do some work on it. I had to replace the compressor on the freezer, but that was 10 years ago. It's like $600. So it's expensive equipment, but it's very serviceable. And, the most important part really is the box itself, and then the door and the way the door seals up. And it's actually has to be a heated seal on the freezer. If it's not a heated seal, you can't open it. It'll freeze shut. And that can be a terrible thing. And I know that for a fact because that happened to us once. And luckily, the breakage on the heated seal, I could get at it and repair it, and we were very lucky. All right, Haven's with us. Right on. Hope you enjoy the trip, Brittany. The sunshine and warm is so therapeutic. See John's brother. Are you stopping by Crunchies? That's what I heard. You're going to swing over there and cut some beef with old Sean. Jonathan, get Sean to show you how the beef splitter works. That thing works good. Those things are made, they were designed to do that. It works good. All right. Furthest you ever driven? Well, you're a little further than we were when we went down to Sean's. I'd like to go down there again. I'd like to go in a little bit different rig so I can stay right at Sean's farm. Or maybe, I don't know. I'm all over the place on this nomad living situation. I really am. That'd be something to talk about for another time. But we're talking about the hanging room. So this old cooler that I have off the back of the shop, we no longer used it. And I actually built a hanging room at the house next door. I kind of wonder sometimes why I did that, because the hanging room really needs to be someplace where you can walk by, flip a light on, and take a look in there without going in, because if you've got a good seal around the door, you don't want to compromise that seal by in and out, in and out, in and out. A little information about that cooler. When we first started not using it, it wound up being like a storage space. So any of the paper products or dry goods and stuff that we would get for the shop, they get put in there. And then it was like, hey, it's pretty cool in here. Let's put some apples in there. So there was a barrel of apples in there, and the kids were in and out all the time getting apples. And then we found out that some of the prosciuttos that we hung in there, all of a sudden they were dripping on the floor, and there was these little white things in the drippings, and they were ruined. And it was tragic. I've had probably 6 of them that at one time or another, something has gone wrong and a fly got in and did us in. And it was too bad. It's just too bad that happened. But, live and learn. So I don't think that for hanging prosciuttos anymore, I don't think I would even, if this hanging room is done as well as I did the one next door, that one was also, it's going to be approximately the same size as this one. That one, we never had a problem with a fly getting in. Never did. I never had any products get ruined in there. Not one time. So if this one is as good as that one, then it's going to extend the season that we can still do our charcuterie program. Like if we knock pigs off in March, like we're going to be doing this time, and we want to hang the hams, which we definitely do. I mean, that's a real nice touch to be able to do with these pigs. We can do that, if it's sealed up, and I plan to really work it hard to make sure it's sealed up. I did everything I could today. What I did was, it's a 8x8 cooler, and I partitioned it off a little over halfway. So the box that's in there is 42 inches by 8 feet long. And so that gives me enough room for 3 rails hanging across this way up high, and I can have 3 rails hanging low. And that is a lot of room for meat to be on, to be hanging from. So you make hooks, and most of the charcuterie products will have a string on them to hang them, right? Even the sausages and stuff. I've got sausages hanging over there. This is not the only reason that they're in there is because we're doing this job down here, down in the shop. And we just didn't want to hang a bunch of stuff in there just so we could take it out. So Joe hung it up here, and it's doing okay. I mean, what you want when you make charcuterie is you want the meat to dry out. But if, let's say that you have a piece of meat that's 5 inches thick, and you dry it out on the crust, then all of that moisture that's on the inside is just going to sit there, and it'll eventually just it'll rot, right? So you need the pores to stay open so it can, the moisture that's in that meat can migrate out at a very even, slow pace. If you're too dry on the outside, you're going to form a crust that's going to hold all that moisture in. That's a bad thing. If you're too wet on the outside, like your moisture is leaving too fast, you're going to get mold buildup on the outside. And it's a very normal thing to have happen because the mold comes because you have a piece of meat there that is decaying. It's got a built-in decomposition mode. Like if you leave a dead cat in the middle of the driveway, in a couple of weeks, there's just nothing there. It's got a built-in decomposition mode. You didn't have to do anything. It just decomposed. Like first the flies get to it, and then all the smaller animals from in the soil get to it. And before you know it, there's nothing there. Maybe just a little bit of hide, but that's it. So that's why the mold attacks it. And we want to head off certain types of mold, black molds, green molds. We want to head them off. So if we get a white mold, no, that's okay. We're all right with that. So in this hanging chamber, what we will do is we will actually have a vent in there so we can vent moisture out of there, and then we're going to be replacing that air with drier air coming in. We're going to want a dehumidifier in the room and a humidifier in the room. And we're going to want to set the dehumidifier at, 62, and the humidifier at like 58. So if it gets too dry, the humidifier will come on. If it gets too moist in there, the dehumidifier will also come on. Now, a good hanging room, if you can vent it properly, won't require too much use of those things or none. The one at the other house, I think I've told you about the guy that was in one of our classes that actually was as a 16-year-old, he hacked into the U.S. Air Force's computer system, right? I told you about that guy. And he was just there, he just understood things very well. And he came and he took this class, and it was surprising the things that he knew. And I showed him this hanging room, and this is before I realized how brilliant this guy was. And I said, yeah, but I'm having a problem with this. I'm getting mold in like a week, and it's starting to look kind of green, and it's bothering me. And he says, oh, this window here, just back it down about another 3 inches so you have more of a vent, and open this one up from the bottom so it can replace. How do you know? But I didn't say that, but he spoke with authority, and I just, okay. And I did it right then. It was like one of those, a storm door with a sliding window, had screens. And so I did that. Never had another problem. We did run a heater in there. It got a little cold in the wintertime just to maintain our curing, but we never cooled it. Okay, so what I learned from building that hanging room was, in Michigan, if we're on the north side of the buildings, it's going to be cooler in the summertime. It might be really cold in the wintertime, but we can always run a heater. You can always run one of those small ceramic heaters, put it on a thermostat, piece of cake, easy. Thermostat being a little switch that knows the temperature that you set in there. You can set it in for 60 degrees, and when it goes to 58, it's going to come on. It's going to bring it to 60 and shut it off. So that's a piece of cake. This down here, I'm not sure what's going to happen, right? I won't know until I get it put together. Now, we have been hanging stuff in there, just in the whole 8x8, but it's in there amongst cardboard boxes and, you know, all kinds of stuff that we use in the shop, you know, all kinds of stuff, the packing materials and all that stuff. And it was kind of, you know, it was in there, it was organized, but not really like good and organized. And in your hanging room, you want that separate from everything else, because every time you bring in a cardboard box, it's got stuff on it. You want to keep it somewhat isolated, right? So that the molds that you build up in there are the good molds. This one is not built like my next one will, like when I get around to it. But a really good hanging chamber would be if you did an underground, right? And then it was lined with stone and mortar. And once the stone and mortar was inoculated with the good molds, it would be self-inoculating. So we will have to see. I'm in the process now. I separated it today. I got everything out of one half of it, and I built a petition. I had to build it in there because I couldn't build a petition and then bring it in because the door was small. So I made a lot of trips back and forth to the wood shop just to cut and recut and shave and all that stuff. So, but I did get it built and I got it sheathed on the inside. So tomorrow I got to put insulation and then sheathe the outside. Point of interest, I went to the lumber yard today and I said, well, I got to get some supplies. And the guy says, you look a little distressed. And I said, yeah, I need OSB. And the last time I came in here, I felt really distressed, paying $40 a sheet for it. And he says, oh, well, maybe you should get plywood instead. And I said, you're telling me plywood is cheaper than OSB? And he says, oh, let me take a look today. I said, you mean it's fluctuating that much? And he says, oh, yeah. So he looks at the computer and he says, well, it's $29 today for a sheet of 1/2-inch, what's called CDX. Used to sheathe houses with that. Now they just use OSB, which is like wafer board. You know, it's all just chipped up stuff that they roll into sheets, cut it off. Used to pay, in 2020, I was paying $9 a sheet for it. And I thought, oh, that's kind of stiff. It used to be $4 a sheet, $4.50 a sheet. And I thought, well, okay. But we sure didn't mind. You know, if you used half a sheet and it sat around for a little while, burn that, get that out of here. You wouldn't do that now. Half a sheet of that is $20. Last time I got it 2 weeks ago, it was $43, $43.10. Today, $44.60. Vindicti, OSB resin manufacturing being manipulated. Yeah, so they can screw with everything is, right? So it's not like I need to talk to the manager about that. I'm not. I just know that these days I just expect the unexpected. And I'm saying to myself, well, $40 for a sheet of OSB kind of pains me. It really does. But if you look at a hanging room to where I can hang a leg like this in there, and some of you are going to think that I'm pulling your leg, but if you look for prosciutto online, and I haven't done it in years, actually, I just haven't needed to. But a leg of Mangalitsa prosciutto, when you could find it, it was $750. So having a chamber like this, once it's built, it's built. I don't have to build it again next year. You know, I might have to maintain it a little bit, but probably not even. But once it's built, it becomes an essential part of what we're doing here. Now, when we started this out, we were just raising pigs, and we would take them to the butchers to be butchered for us, and it would be fresh meat, right? Fresh meat, meaning it wasn't salted or anything like that. There was no curing being done. And then we took over, and we learned how to butcher and butcher well. And now we're butchering. So now we're doing that, right? And the next thing we needed to learn was, all right, well, how do you make bacon, right? And we fooled around with it. Sometimes it'd be too salty, sometimes not salty enough, sometimes it just wasn't right. And so we worked on it until we make a bacon now that is, I'm sorry, it's to kill for. You would love it. You would absolutely love it. And then, okay, well, now you've got a bacon. Now what do you do with it? Got to slice it. Well, you need a good sharp knife. You're going to have to, and you're going to be there for a while slicing it. And they're going to be one kind of thick, one thinner, one you slide off the side. So you get good at it after a while, slicing it with a knife. And it's kind of fun because you get to try out thick pieces, thin pieces. But then we said, hey, we need a slicer. We looked around, we found a slicer, an old Hobart, old as old can be, but I mean, it just works real great. Paid $400 for it. And now it's that our $400, it's not in the bank, it's in the butcher shop, right? And with that $400 component, I can make bacon that is worth, I don't know, $20 a pound. I really don't know how much Jill sells it for, honestly. So, you know, I mean, this is the picture that Rachel put up because we're supposed to talk about that tomorrow for our 2-Minute Tuesday. Joe comes on Tuesdays and we do our filming. And there's going to be a killer video coming out, I think, next Thursday, I think. And that's the one where we go in the pool, go swimming in February. 16 inches of ice on the pool. I know because the bar on my chainsaw is 16, and I was just barely touching water, Let's see. The ghost is saying OSB is crap. Building supplies have been going downhill for years. Now they make floor joists out of plywood strips, sandwiched between 2x4s. Yeah, I've seen those. I wonder how they'll last the test of time. Huh. Yeah, well, anyway, let's look at the positive. Let's look at the bright side of things. I had a conversation with one of my Amish friends today, and also had a conversation with one of the guys at the lumber yard. And both of them, you know, goaded me into the conversation, and it went something like this. You know, my Amish friend, he's the guy that runs the mill that I get wood from, and I called him a couple weeks ago and I said, hey, I'm going to need some rough cut 1-inch boards, 6s and 8s, 8-footers. And he called me back and he says, well, I got some in the yard this guy didn't pick up from last summer. I'd give you that for 5 cents a board foot cheaper. It's a little moldy, but it's still intact. It's still, you know, going to work. I said, all right, I'll come get it. And then he calls me today and he says, you know, I've got some logs in the yard and I can saw those up for you if you really need the 6s and 8s. That moldy stuff, I got another guy that said he wanted it, never came and got it, but now he says he wants it. So I said, yeah, all right, I don't care, because I would have had to go after it today, and I'm working on the hanging room, and so I didn't really want to leave anyway. And it's an hour over there, an hour back, and I got to put a trailer on and all that stuff. So I really didn't want to do it today. And so he says, well, I can cut that for you. And he says, that's going to be it for a while. I said, why? And he says, I can't get logs. He says, I used to have guys calling me, do you need logs? Do you need logs? Now I can't get logs. And he says the frost laws are coming on the 4th, which means they can only travel with half loads. And so nobody wants to travel with a half load. And I don't know why the state does it. They don't maintain the roads anyway. I don't know what they're worried about, but they're doing it because they can. So anyway, that's the Department of Transportation, don't you know? And boy, will they give you a fat fine if they catch you overweight. It's like something for them to do, you know. Yep. Always got something good to say, don't you, Mark? Yeah, I guess I do. Well, on the positive, so anyway, I told them I want a bunk of each, and I'll be glad to get it because that'll be, you know, the store and a lot of other things that we need to build around here. I'm just really going to need a lot of wood this season. So anyway, Vindicti. I watched a guy on YouTube named Uneducated Economist, and he works at a mill and gives regular updates on the state of the lumber markets. I should check that out. And let's see. Jonathan, we have $5,500 worth of tractor instead of losing value in the bank. That's good. So your money is safe in that tractor. That tractor is not going to devalue like your dollars are getting ready, are doing now. They're devaluating quite quickly, I guess, right now. I don't really want to talk about. I don't want to stay away. I want to stay away from the negative. Now, I just feel that way because there really is so much positive. And as I was building this thing today, I realized this is a component that is actually going to make the farm far more profitable if I choose to. And I started scratching my head about how come we haven't been making more charcuterie to sell to our customers. And the reason is people don't know we have it. We just don't. We didn't think we were good enough at it, and we just didn't know people really wanted it. But every time we do a class, like when we did our last charcuterie class, I think I had a couple of legs leave, and people are pretty excited about that stuff. So I think that once this is built, I think I'm going to put more emphasis on charcuterie when it comes to hog processing and our homestead hog harvest. You know, I really am, because for one thing, when you have an area where you're hanging all your stuff and it looks professional, like it looks like you guys are proud of what you're making, instead of the way I had it before, it's in there with all the cardboard boxes, you know, stuff's dripping down on the boxes and stuff. There's way too much hanging in there because we only had a rail about 5 feet long. That was all we had. And oh gee, I remember we had some train wrecks in there, just absolute train wrecks. But now this, it's going to be more accessible. You'll be able to walk in. You're relatively sure you're not going to have any problems as far as flies. And I'm actually putting lights in there, so when you walk in, you can look through a nice window on the door, flip the light on, and then, hey, look at this. You know, hopefully it's not bzzz, hopefully, and it'll be more temperature controlled than we've ever been. So I don't know. It's like, I guess I use the analogy, if you had like fine cigars and you had them rolled up in a paper bag, you know, sitting on the desk in lieu of a nice handmade oak humidor, you know, with a window on the front, and all of the things are set at exactly a 45-degree angle for viewing. So when you look at them, you kind of licking your chops if you smoke cigars. I do. I just haven't in about 3 years because I haven't had one. The last one I had, my son brought from Cancun, and it was a Cuban cigar, which is supposed to be pretty good. It actually was. It was the first cigar I had in a long time, and a regular sized cigar about that long, and I smoked the whole thing, and it was actually really good, really good. And my kids were like, "I didn't know you smoked cigars." Yeah. Oh yeah, oh yeah. I smoke cigars. Oh yeah, and I know things too. I'm a guy who smokes cigars and knows things. All right, so I will try and get some more audio or visual out there so you all can see how this is looking. But the whole idea of charcuterie is not the way it's portrayed today. If I showed you the charcuterie book that we tout quite a bit, it's called Charcuterie. It's written by Michael Ruhlman and Brian Polson. Brian Polson, I know him. I won't say he's a good friend or anything, but I've eaten a meal or two with him and worked alongside of him. And, I've been down to where he teaches down at Schoolcraft College. And so I know him. I have his phone number. But he was pretty famous, I guess, in the charcuterie world for a time. I don't know if he is now. But the book is really good. But the nature of the book is sort of if you look just at the pictures, you're thinking, well, it is a high-end chef thing. Can be, very much so, because when you see charcuterie products, they look really cool. They really do. And in the chef world, presentation is 9/10 of the battle, right? So, and presentation being, how it looks when it comes to the table. It's sort of like when a waiter brings you a fine bottle of wine, he doesn't just slide it across the table to you, he just comes over with a thing wrapped around his arm, and pops the cork or whatever, however they're going to do it. And then there's, a lot of protocol involved. Well, same thing with charcuterie. It can be that. I've seen charcuterie platters that were quite small, no bigger than this, that were $30-$40 on an hors d'oeuvres menu, and it was not the quality of the stuff that we're producing, not even close. The problem that you run into, that people in the United States run into, if they want to make fine quality charcuterie, is you have to do it under what's called under inspection. And guess who? Our good friends at the USDA or MDA. And they have their things that they believe in, like certain temperatures and certain chemicals that definitely have to go into the ham. And how do they know that? Because they learned it in college, right? Where are those protocols from? They're left over from World War II when they were using the same chemicals that they use in explosives to cure meats. But it was wartime, and they had to get stuff over to the GIs that were fighting, I guess. That's what I'm told. And, with all the nitrate in your meat, you can't really expect your body to be able to break it down because, if it doesn't break down in the air at all, what makes you think that your stomach's asked to be tough enough to do that? And a lot of times it isn't. So their protocols aren't exactly conducive to a good product, or a product that when you eat it, your body says, oh, food. Yes, this will be good. So they have to put stuff in it that fools you and all that stuff. So it's not good. We've had prosciutto that we were doing a class over on Beaver Island, and there was a gal that was a photographer, and she came from Chicago, and she had stopped at some boutique deli and got a platter of some of their nicest stuff. And I think she paid about $65 for it. And she brought it up to the island, and we had brought some of our stuff up, and we had sliced out our stuff off and made a plate so the students could get an idea of where we're where we're going with the charcuterie thing, and we tried some of her stuff, and it looked good, but then as soon as you put it in your mouth, you'd taste salt, and that was it. You could not taste the meat. There was just nothing there. And I don't know. Why would you ever buy it again? I guess if you're trained to think that it's good and it costs a lot of money, that's good, isn't it? Oh, yeah. Yeah. Spent a lot of money on that. It must be good. So making your own is definitely the thing to do. If you think that you would make it the way we do and be able to do that under inspection, there's no way, because the MDA, USDA, when they hear 60 degrees, they're like, oh, you can't have meat at 60 degrees. You know, their number is 38. They like the number 38. Problem with 38 is your meat won't cure. It will not cure. So they don't like that. So you can't be partnering with them if you want to do this. Don't think that our prosciuttos are going to get a stamp of approval and that they would ever make it into a restaurant or a retail store. They just won't. And we're okay with that because we don't really want to do restaurants or retail stores anyway. Why would we, when we would have to discount our products 30%, so that those institutions could make their cut? So why would we do that? I would just as soon sell them to friends and neighbors and associates, and to sell a product like that to friends and neighbors, I don't need to partner with anybody. I don't need a third party to inspect it or anything like that. And I know what I'm talking about there. I wouldn't be saying it online like this if it weren't true. Otherwise, I'd hear sirens in the distance. The prosciutto police would be coming for me, but they're not. I was talking with a guy today. He's funny. And he's from Chicago, actually. He's from Illinois, outside of Chicago, like 30 minutes outside. So his phone number comes up as Chicago, and he had called to inquire about some pigs. And my wife will give my cell phone if people are going to buy, right? And so when I get him on the phone, yeah, can I help you? And he's like, yeah, well, I've got some sows over here and I need to get them bred. I was wondering if you knew anything about AI. And I said, nah, I don't know anything about that. Not in pigs. I don't do it. And I don't know anybody that does. And he says, what about breeding stock? So he wanted to buy some breeding stock. And I was like, okay, I have one boar here that's a really good boar. And he's about 14 weeks old, so he'd be perfect. All you got to do is drive over and get him, but he didn't like the idea of that. But anyway, in the course of it, he said, so you butcher on farm? And I said, yeah. And he says, is that legal over in Michigan? And I said, why, is it illegal in Illinois? And he says, I think it is. I said, well, maybe you ought to look into that a little bit, see if you can find that law and forward it to me so I can have a look at that law. And he says, well, you don't think it is? And I said, I know it isn't. I know it isn't. He says, well, I've heard that you can only sell halves and wholes over here. And you got to have a warehouse license if you're going to keep it in your freezer for any length of time. And I said, well, let me run a scenario past you. Let's say that you have me over to your apartment and you serve pork chops out of your freezer. And then I say to you, hey, these are really good. I want to turn my girlfriend on to them. Would you sell me a couple of them? And he says, sure, I'll sell you a couple of them. So you give him $20 and you're driving home and you get pulled over by a state policeman. And the state policeman walks up and says, license and registration. And then he backs up and pulls his weapon and he says, are those pork chops on your seat? And you say, yes. And he says, out of the car now. Slams you up against the side and throws the cuffs on you. What are you doing with pork chops? Obviously, that's not happening. State policeman doesn't care what you have for food because food isn't illegal. But our good friends over at the agencies have floated these stupid, wives' tales that you can only sell halves and wholes. Oh, and quarters too. How do you sell a quarter of a pig? Anyway, I mean, it's the stupidest thing you ever heard. Like you can't sell a pork chop. That is so stupid. But people seem to hear that and hang on to it. And if you go on any of the homesteader sites and you say, I've got single pork chops for sale, somebody invariably somebody will cut in and says, it's against the law to sell single cuts of meat. And it's funny. It's like, it's against the law to sell milk. Yeah. Get pulled over by same state policeman, and he says, we got an open containers law. What is in that? It's milk. Raw milk, out of the car. Wouldn't happen. It's just funny, but I'm glad that we are able to have these conversations so people can think about it, because when a lie gets told like that, it sticks in people's mind, and it creates fear. It creates fear. When you sell somebody something out of your freezer on your farm, you're kind of nervous, like, I know they got drones everywhere watching me. Where in reality, they don't have drones everywhere. And even if they did, pork chops are not on the controlled substance roster. They're not illegal. Neither is milk or anything else. Those wives' tales are floated because they protect the market share of, the big guys, right? They don't want like this whole nation. All right. And it doesn't matter what they want. I mean, that is deception, and that is it is lying. It is let's see, what's the word I'm looking for? But you know what I'm saying. It's not good behavior. It's bad behavior. And bad behavior leads to what? Arguments. Arguments are bad behavior. It's not a good thing. And then arguments lead to fistfights and name calling, right? Not good things. And if it keeps going, it leads to what? It leads to war, right? And we just think, for some reason, that war is inevitable. We've grown up with it. I mean, I grew up watching, even shows like McHale's Navy. They were on a PT boat, on the bow of the PT boat with a 50 caliber machine gun firing at Japs. Actually, they called them nips, right? And I think that's probably why that show isn't on anymore. And or Hogan's Heroes, occasionally you'd see a bombing mission, B-17s be dropping bombs in Germany on the Krauts, right? And it was all funny and everything, but it's war. And Sergeant Schultz with his Model 98. Hey, if you're going to sit there, can you close the door? With his Model 98 Mauser, that's an implement of war. And we just thought, well, it's inevitable, like I remember thinking, well, when I'm in the Army, I just thought everybody's in the Army. And then when I was like 12, be watching the news and watching reels from Vietnam, GIs holding up cut off heads and stuff, the body count and stuff. And I just thought, well, when I'm in Vietnam, I will. And it ended when I was 14. So I never did go. But my sister's boyfriends, one of them went and did come back. But there was all kinds of stuff like that. Does that really need to happen? And the answer is no. So I can't tell you why I know this. But I believe that when we shake off what we're going through right now, right? Because like the world that I live in right now is not the world that I lived in 2 years ago. And then when you project it out, is it going to get way worse? It might. It might. But it's sort of like ripping a Band-Aid off. You know, you got to get that scab off of there and then it'll heal, right? So there's a lot of things in our country right now that need to be healed. This division in our country, that was done. That was done. And it was done for a reason. And I just feel as though the people that did that, they did that and it was an act of desperation. It was like, oh, wow, they're coming for us. Well, let's do this. Let's get some race wars going. That's always worked in the past. That didn't quite work. We didn't get the reactions we wanted. No gunfire on the streets, at least not much. All right, let's try this. We'll try this, and we'll try this. Well, that didn't work. Oh, they're getting pretty damn desperate now. How about war in Ukraine? I don't even want to get into that. That's about the stupidest thing I've ever seen. But, you know, people who haven't seen war are going to look at these pictures and say, wow, must be a war going on, a new war. And then they pull at your heartstrings. Well, I saw that's the stupidest thing. There was men and women in a barracks, all with their LB on that they weren't wearing properly, with mixed match uniforms, men and women in the barracks. And then they all had kittens and puppies. So you start watching it like, what are they trying to do to us? It's all propaganda. But anyway, I don't want to get into that. But what I'm thinking is going to happen is this is all going to clear. This is all going to clear. And the deception, the lies from way back are going to be exposed. And the people who have ruled this planet by lies and deception are going to be left. They're not going to be here anymore. And it will be left to us, right? And you'll have people that will say, I don't know why I was doing this. I don't know how I got roped into doing this whole industrial ag thing. This doesn't even make any sense. I'm the one that's destroying the environment. I'm the one that's pissing off my neighbors. And I'm the one that's producing this crummy food that's making everybody. I'm not doing this anymore. I'm going to go back. I'm going to plot a plan to go back to something else. Right? I don't need 4,000 acres to do this. I'm going to sell that off. Who's going to buy it? Maybe people that have punched out of the cubicle life and saying, you know what? I'm 40 years old and I think I want to start farming because that looks a lot better to me than where I'm headed in this cubicle lifestyle, this, what do they call it? The corporate lifestyle. Refugees of the corporate life. You know, it was a training process that they had to go through actually it starts in high school and then university and then beyond that. And then when they get to the corporate world, they're somewhat prepared, but it's brutal. You know, it's brutal. It's, if you think that life was hard on the industrial world in the 20s, nothing like some of the things I've heard coming out of the corporate world. But anyway, when I think when we come out of that, we are going to go back to 1950s farming. And I think that would be a really good thing because we have a lot of people who, you know, the cycle's been kind of broken. It used to be that, well, the dumb kids stayed on the farm and they took over for dad. The smart kids left the farm. I think that people's outlook on the world now is like, what does quality of life mean? You know, does quality of life mean that I've got $100,000 in the bank? Is that like, do I wake up in the morning and think, yeah, this sucks. Can't hardly breathe the air. I work with a bunch of jerks, but I got $100,000 in the bank. That makes it all right. I don't think human beings are like that. I really don't. I'm not like that. So I would much rather have less, currency and more usable things and a usable system that I'm stewarding it. I don't get to take any of this stuff with me. Not one thing here do I get to take with me. I'm just using it while I'm here. But I have a nice place to live. It's quiet. It's not crowded. The air is as sweet as it can possibly be, except sometimes when industrial agriculture turns loose. But I think a lot of that is going to come to an end. And I think it will be the best thing for the farmers that got sort of coerced into it. They were coerced into it. It was like, get big or get out, and, I don't want to borrow that much money. Well, then we're not going to loan you anything. You either borrow enough to get big, or we're just not going to help you out. But the farmers never should have got in a position where they were borrowing money for their operating loan, for their, getting started. They should have saved from the year before and grown it organically. So that was, you're not supposed to be borrowing money, that borrowing money thing is a way to ensnare people into moving them the direction that you want them to go. So I know of farms where they have gotten in way over their head. They had borrowed more money than they were possibly going to make. And then the bank says, well, if you sell off everything but the farmhouse, we can call it good. And then the bank owns the property, and the bank will sell it, for a lot more to somebody who says, well, I need my operating loan this year. I'll take as much as I got last year. Well, we'd like to bump that up a little bit. And he says, well, I don't need more. He says, well, you really need to grow a little bit. Here's some land over here that we just took away from this guy over here, and we'll sell it to you at this much. Well, that's kind of a lot. I don't know if I want to buy it at that. You gotta, or you're not getting any. And that's how it goes. That's how it goes. And, nobody wants to disclose that they've been pushed around like that, but they should have never been there in the first place, right? So anyway, when this does come to an end, I believe, I heard this the other day, and when I heard this, I got a tingle from it. Because I've told you guys before that the purpose of the U.S. military that I was part of for quite a long time, 20 years and change, does two things. They're charged with two things. And it's very simple. And when you get this through your head as a military member, then everything becomes very simple to you. We do two things. We kill people and we break stuff. That's what we do. Kill people and break stuff. If there's a humanitarian thing, it's for a photo op. That's it. Oh, look at how good these guys are. They bring rice to a bunch of people that they just bomb the snot out of. They're going to bring rice to them. What a bunch of good guys. Yeah, and they drop it out the back of a... Yeah. But what if the U.S. military was the guardians of peace? You think we could do that? I mean, could we do that? Could we have a worldwide pact that outlaws war, outlaws warfare, outlaws it? Right? And whenever I say stuff, when there's a situation that is created, like the outlaw of war on the world stage, who would benefit from that? Cui bono? Who benefits? Well, it wouldn't be Hughes Aircraft Company. Certainly wouldn't be them. No, it wouldn't. But that's a good thing, because what do? They build armament. So if you build armament, you need a war. Because, well, we've got built this many helicopters. They have all they need. We need a good war. We got to get rid of some of these helicopters. So I think that could happen, and I think we need to believe that. And I think what I'm going to do from now on, you know how if you go deer hunting, you start looking for deer, right? You start looking for them. That's what you do. Any kind of hunting. I would reckon if you were some sort of, I would say people who are snipers, they study photographs of, vegetation, so it imprints on their mind. But if you're a deer hunter, you look at the slope of uh, the antlers. It's different from everything else in the forest. So if you keep looking at it when it presents itself, your mind will see it before your consciousness sees it, and you'll hone in on it, and then you'll see it. So what I'm going to do, you guys can do what you want, but I think this would be a good thing, is look beyond our headlights, what we can see, and think, what are we going to have to do? What are we going to need to do? What are the needs going to be of the community as time goes on? If you look at the mainstream media, that's not good. They've got a left-right scenario. We kind of say, well, I'm on the left or I'm on the right, so I hate those guys and these guys. Yeah, that's so stupid. I think the best thing to do is just disregard it. Or if you get to the point, like I have, when even I hear good news, it's as stupid as the bad news. There's always this, well, Hillary Clinton, she's got a body count list of over 100 people. And it just frustrates you because she can get away with anything. And you get frustrated. They're giving you that just to frustrate you. So you get wrapped around the axle about that situation because after all, you're the good guys. You're on the right side of things, right? And then on the right side, you have President Trump, and he just drove the libs crazy because he was arrogant and he was hubris and all that stuff that they don't like. And so they would just, you know. But that's all baloney. What we really have to look at is what we're charged with doing, and it's right in front of us. It's right in front of us on our homesteads. Regardless what Sleepy Joe Biden does, this doesn't really make any difference. Not really. Is it Sleepy Joe that's making the price at the pumps higher? Well, the right's blaming him, of course. But no, it's just another company that's screwing the little guy to get more profit so they can buy more houses and more cars and stuff. He's letting them, I don't know, because Trump didn't let him. I don't know if that's true. I don't know. I can't. But with the homestead and what we have in front of us, I don't really worry too much about. I mean, these days, I'm not worried about too much about what's going on in Canada or any place. It's right here, and this is my domain that I need to worry about. I'm going on too long, so I better get off, but we came on late. But something that I'd like to talk about tomorrow, I'll just wet your whistle for it, is compromise. I'd like to talk about compromise. And I haven't been reading these, so let me look through them real quick. The ghost is with us. JP, you get a lot more income out of that than you would from the bank. Yeah, right on. We have been happy with our IFC walls. Concrete isn't hard to get. That's Crunchy Mama. Yeah, IFC. Those are used shipping boxes for fish, and they grind them up and they mix concrete with them, and then they form them into blocks, and you can stack them up like Lincoln Logs. Pretty neat. Sean's got a good thing going there. Oh, Aaron's with us. Right on, Aaron. Haven't seen you in a while. Aaron Spencer, I just saw some prosciutto for $167 a pound at a specialty deli. Ooh, wow. I could live with that. So a 15-pound prosciutto. Ooh. All right. Can you make charcuterie with wild hogs? You sure can. You sure can. Vindicti's saying, I'm 2 weeks into quitting smoking, Ghost. I have some old dried out Cubans that taste nasty. Maybe the bad taste will help kill my cravings. You can get Cubans up in Canada, huh? They must just be mad at us Americanas. Has anyone here ever made blood sausage? Oh yeah, we have. And I know how to do it, or Jill does. I say I know how to do it, but I don't really remember. But nobody here really wants to eat blood. I have, and it was good. I don't know. There's too many other good parts, like the tongue. Thank you for the motivation. I think I'm past the worst of it. Oh, this is about smoking cigarettes. Yeah. I did that when I was a very young man. All right, Jonathan's doing carnivore. Right on, man. I'm doing full carnivore right now. I am. I listened to a very good podcast that I would recommend to anybody, no matter if you're slim or fat or whatever. I never went on carnivore to lose weight. That wasn't my point. I went on carnivore because I had just figured, well, I'm slow to stand up because that must be because I'm 60. But when I listened to Sean Baker on his Meat RX thing, I find out that not so much. That shouldn't be happening yet, or it doesn't have to happen at all. And so I went on the carnivore diet. I wound up losing a bunch of weight, about 30 pounds. So, having 15 pounds that I'm carrying around on each shoulder, that's a lot of, unnecessary work that I'm doing. And so I was losing, but that's what I did. But then I got real interested in this whole diet thing. I slid off of the carnivore diet when the garden came in. And then we went into pig butchering season. So I started eating charcuterie and I started eating, pork. And I ran out of beef. And I just thought, well, pork and beef. And then I was eating vegetables. And then, what the heck, I'll have some potatoes, And so I kind of slid back into the old way of eating. And then, somebody'd bring home some fudge. Well, let me try a little bit of that, which now I'm not going to eat that. I'm just not going to put that in me because I don't want to be sick tomorrow. And I won't be sick barfing or anything. It's going to be like putting poor gasoline in your car. I'm not going to have as much fun. I'm not going to be as sharp. I'm not going to be as energetic. I don't want to do it. I want to have a good day tomorrow. So I'm going to stay with, but I listened to a really good podcast that caught my attention and it said fasting for your survival. And this little Indian MD, and you could tell he was different than the rest of the crowd. He just went into it about fasting. And like when you're on carnivore, usually I'm just eating once a day anyway. So that means I'm fasting, 23 hours, 24 hours, whatever. And he said that is probably more beneficial than any one diet that you can be on. And so you don't necessarily have to go according to this guy. You guys listen to it, see what you want to do. But according to this guy, if you can eat one meal a day or one meal and a modified meal within 6 hours or 8 hours, I mean, you won't have an active, stinky compost pile going in your belly, for one thing. You'll be able to finish things out. So anyway. The storm of propaganda is astounding, and there are a lot of people on our side that are getting pulled into the rah-rah world. BS. Yeah. It's so obvious, though, isn't it? I mean, the pictures of little kids waving flags as the tanks go out. And the one that's most just sickening is the prime minister. You know, it shows him with his wife and stuff, and he's getting all geared up. I don't know about you, but every AK-47 that I've seen, it all looks like the same gun, you know. All right, Keith Gonzo. Debt slavery is real. Right on. We had 8 corporate refugees hiding out at our farm last weekend. Seeing people try to hand cut jowl bacon for the first time is awesome. All right. The day is coming when swords and spears will be made into plowshares and pruning hooks. I believe that. And I also believe that the meek will inherit the earth. Yep. We're stuck in a real life Monopoly game. You know what the fix is on that, Inga? Fold up the game, put the instruction manual in the on top of the game, and then put the box cover on it, and take that and put it on a shelf someplace, and then pull down another game, and it'll be the it'll be the U.S. Constitution game. You play that one as pertains to your farmstead, and you don't have to worry about that Monopoly game thing. I don't know if that fits. Banjo Beer. Hey, Banjo, did you listen to Owen Benjamin today? He got a little wild there at the end, but some of what he said I thought was, wow, it made me think. All right, Sean Baker and Ken Berry are great. It's a contrived war. They use electional astrology to time these events. It's another false flag. Yeah, Vince McMahon type pageant. I mean, obviously. So, I mean, it's sort of like, I'm sure someplace in the world, if I had a TV here, there's something going on that a lot of people are just waiting for. Like the latest Kardashians is going to be on tonight. Do they even still have that? I don't know if they have that. But some people they're waiting on that. And they're going to cut their dinner short because they want to get a good seat on the sofa and get their popcorn already and all that stuff. And they're into it, right? I'm not. I don't know which one is which. I don't care, really. And I need to treat. I listened to Spearco last week, and he said, you know what? Y'all need a good dose of apathy when it comes to this. And it's like when I look at it, when I see the pictures and don't read the captions, I'd see the pictures. Haven't been in that business for a long time. I'm like, this is not even real. This is not even close. Handing out machine guns to all of your citizens and encouraging them. You're all going to need to make some Molotov cocktails. I tell you what, a Molotov cocktail up against a T-72 tank, that'll be good. You won't even get close to throw it. You won't even get within 50 yards of that thing before the sensors in that T-72 come on that say you've got a human being at 180 degrees out 120 feet. And you're in enemy territory. You don't even look. You just set the machine guns to go. Brrr. And then look at the scope. He ain't moving. Let's keep going. You ain't going to get close to that thing with a Molotov cocktail. Who was that designed for? That was designed for a dumb public. And I'll tell you what, another thing, if you just look at the pictures, and I'm not saying that there wasn't any collateral damage, but there was some apartment buildings with the windows blown out and a couple of some bad damage. If a MiG-29 comes flying in there and he's like, I'm looking for a target, and he fires at an apartment building, you would see big chunks taken out of that, huge chunks taken out of it. That was what would be known as collateral damage. Maybe there was a warhead that went off on an enemy airplane, or some other target, and it broke the windows in that building, right? But if you wouldn't fly into somebody else's country and shoot at an apartment building. That's not a military target, and what good would it do you? It's a waste of ammunition. I think what's going on there is a lot of deep state infrastructure is being blown to smithereens. The people who, maybe this is just for our consumption though, but the people who are saying rah 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 to the the Ukrainians and the Ukrainian freedom fighters that are going out, it's like the Joe Biden types, and what was he involved in Ukraine throughout his life? Maybe it's just for our consumption so we can get upset about it. You know what? I think I'm going to work on my hanging room. All right, I'm going to go. Tomorrow night, we're going to talk about compromise and how it affects our life and doesn't fit in on the farm. All right, I'll see you.